I'm about to say something that's very controversial to society. And this has to do with experiencing the bare minimum in relationships. And it's important that we have this conversation because what I'm about to say, if you only listen to the first half of it, is going to sound disrespectful. But my opinion is that at some point, we all need to experience the bare minimum in relationships. At some point, I do believe that we either on a conscious level or a subconscious level need to settle. And I want to explain to you why. So let's talk about it. Now, this actually stemmed from a video that I saw either on TikTok or on Instagram. I can't remember which. But there was this video that this man created. And he said to his audience, you females are gonna have to settle. If you want a man in your life, if you want the things that you are looking for, you're gonna have to settle. And it was interesting at first because it offended me in a way that it almost made me shut down completely and respond in a way that wasn't as receptive as I was when I took some time out to really think about what he was saying. Not to say that he's right or wrong, but to decipher it on a deeper level as to what it means to settle. And I think in order for us to fully understand this on a deeper level, I want to take you back and also give you a little bit of insight to my story as to why I feel the way that I do. Let's start with that. For the people who grew up, specifically talking about myself, grew up in a household with adults who were not necessarily emotionally available, emotionally mature. We tend to go out into this life searching for the things that we lacked at home, right? So when you're growing up and you don't have that adult guiding you and nurturing you and giving you a safe space to make you feel like, hey, it's okay to feel this way, or hey, nurturing your confidence, nurturing all of those things that are supposed to start at home. What you do not get at home is what you go out into this life and search for. The problem with that is when you're taught and raised in an unavailable home, you also go out into this world now attracting people who are also emotionally unavailable. So it's hurt people attaching themselves to hurt people, right? And that was my story. Growing up, I didn't really have the foundational base of confidence and love and self-value and all of those things, right? And this is no disrespect to anyone or anything. I'm just telling you the foundation of where this started. I didn't have that foundation to fall back on. So when I went out into the world, I would attach myself really to people who also had that same wound. So it became easier for me to become in alignment with people who did not have the emotional capacity to be able to receive me. And the people that did have the emotional capacity to receive me, it felt so foreign. It felt it didn't feel right? Because I had more experience with people who didn't have than people who did. So for me, a lot of my experiences, and it's more than likely the case for people with a similar background as well, when you have a lack of experience in that area, you tend to go out and search for what it is that you lack. You tend to want to cling on to those types of things. So almost every other thing that we do is trial and error. We are literally trying to establish our sense of confidence, our sense of self-worth from scratch. right? Because when you're young, you don't even have the know-how or the knowledge to even understand that is what's happening within you. You don't know that you don't have any real self-worth. You don't know that you don't have any real confidence. All you know is that you want to fit in and you just want to have a sense of belonging. So everything that you do, every relationship that you have, every friendship, it's trial and error. And you don't notice these things until you get to a mature age where you have the capacity to sit down either with a therapist or just with yourself in retrospect, and you look back on all those experiences and you say to yourself, wow, yeah, I don't even know who I am or where to start. I don't really have a real sense of self-confidence, and and looking back on all the pattern of the relationships that I've had, I'm used to pain. And you notice it when you start getting to a place of recognizing your own patterns, right? You start recognizing the same types of relationships. You start noticing, hey, all of my relationships are ending in a lot of the same ways. Betrayal, hurt, cheating, lying, stealing, all the things. Or you start noticing that they keep hurting you in a lot of the same ways. And this isn't just for romantic, it's platonic. These people aren't available to me. They aren't actually supporting me. They're taking from me. And this message is not to support a victim mentality. This message is to help you gain perspective on why I'm saying the things that I'm saying, as far as understanding what a settlement means and why I feel that it's important and essential to a person's growth and development. I feel like once you get to that place where you start reflecting on your own patterns and your own self-sabotaging behaviors, then you can start deciphering between what's for you and what isn't. And for me personally, I've experienced a lot of relationships where majority of them were breadcrumbs. I've been in a lot more relationships, more than not, where the men that I was talking to, the men that I was attracted to, they were not available to me emotionally, or they breadcrumbed the hell out of me. And by breadcrumbing, I mean they did just the bare minimum. The bare minimum, man. And again, this is not a bashing session. This is not to no disrespect to anybody at all. I'm just telling you my experience from my perspective. Now, if those people want to go out and speak from their perspective, that's on them. I'm talking about me. But I'm saying this because the breadcrumbing that I kept allowing is at one point what I believed I deserved from experience. It felt familiar, which is why I feel some of us keep coming back to the statement, you feel like home. Funny part about that statement is when your home base is rooted in pain, it's easier for you to get to a place of saying, hey, I like this person because they feel familiar. They feel like home, when you're being hurt in a lot of the same ways that you did when you were back at home, right? So breadcrumbing, not being supported, doing just enough to make you feel like, hey, I'm here. And if at any point I want to leave and maybe double back, I'll do that. I'll do just enough to keep you coming back. I'll do just enough to keep you around. Those were the types of relationships that I attracted. And it's interesting what type of dynamic that starts to create in your own mind, because you start taking those things personal. How could you not take it personal? Right? How could you not? When you look back on the history of your relationships and you realize that you were doing majority of the work to try to hold things together. You were doing majority of the work to try to show up, to show support, to try to understand and try to give. Again, not to be a victim. This is not a victim mentality session. I'm saying this Because when you look back on it and you realize that that is the foundation of what you base your relationships off of, it's easier now for you to leave a door open for those people to keep coming. So, to go back to my previous statement on what this man said, if you want what you're looking for in a relationship, you're going to have to settle. This is my opinion on the matter. I feel like he's right. Because again, people with the lack of a foundation on emotional maturity, or a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-confidence, I think that it is more beneficial for those types of people to settle. Settle in your relationships, settle in your careers, settle in your jobs. I think that it's very, very beneficial. I think he's right. But here's why. I think that it's better for you to settle so that you know what a settlement feels like. I think it's better that you get into a relationship that doesn't give you what you deserve, that doesn't give you that you're worth in your career, that doesn't give you what you are valuable, that doesn't make you feel valuable. I think that you should stay in those connections and in those environments for as long as you possibly can until you say enough is enough. Because see, it's similar to being in an abusive relationship. And I've been in one of those as well, both a physical and emotionally abusive relationship. And it's so crazy how you can have so many people around you saying, hey, I think you should stop. It's not healthy for you. Hey, I think you should do this. I think you should stop this. But when you're in the middle of that situation, you don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Let's just be real. And you know what? Take me out of the equation. What about some of the times when you were in a toxic relationship? Be honest with yourself. Did you really want to hear that? Did you really give a crap when somebody came to you and said, hey, you need to leave? And they're doing it from the kindness of their heart. They see what you're going through. They're doing that because they love you. But them loving you wasn't enough for you to leave, was it? No. You didn't leave that toxic relationship until you said enough is enough. Am I right? With that in mind, I believe that is similar to this situation. I think that you should get into these relationships and continue to allow what you allow so that you can recognize what a settlement feels like, so that you can recognize what abuse feels like, so that you can recognize when you're being underpaid, undervalued. I think that you should stick with it. Contrary to what other people might believe, I think that you should stay until you say you're ready to leave. And that's the thing about settlements. They teach you what a settlement is. That's why I believe the saying goes, you can't fully trust someone who's never been through anything. Because see, someone with a lack of experience in the area of your life that you've been through will have a hard time having compassion and understanding for what it is that you are going through. They won't fully understand you. They won't fully get or grasp why you're behaving the way that you are behaving. And it's because they haven't went through what you've gone through. That doesn't give you an excuse to do the things that you're doing. It doesn't make it right. But it does make it a habit and a pattern of yours. And just like most habits and patterns, they are hard to break. And you can't fully understand why someone is behaving that way unless you've been through it. You can only fully have compassion for something or someone when you have understanding. You've experienced it. You've been through it. That's why I said you can't fully trust someone who has a lack of experience. And it can be easier to judge someone from the outside looking in when you don't have that type of experience. You're not in that person's shoes. So yeah, I think you should settle. Ladies, men, I think you should. I think you should continue on in these relationships the way that you have been. And if I'm being completely honest with you, this conversation is really long overdue because for me, it just seems like it's easier to give into the narrative that people have when it comes to love and relationships. And a lot of people seem to have a good standing based on their own experiences, on what they think love is, on what they think healthy love is, and what it isn't. So it was harder for me to come and have this conversation because it seems like everybody's so fixated and stuck in their own ways. And that's okay. But for the people who do hear me, for the people who are truly drawn to my voice, for the people who have the similar background and experience and what it means and what it feels like to settle, what it feels like to be breadcrumbed, what it feels like to be disappointed, what it feels like to continue to be let down over and over and over again. Up until you get to a point where you say, hear me good, up until you get to a point where you say enough is enough. You understand what it is that I'm talking about. Because see, here's the funny thing about that. Once you get to that place, you now have a clearer understanding of what it means to drive the price up. Now that you have a foundational base of what it means to settle, you now know where the baseline is. You now have a clearer understanding of what it means to drive the price up and not go back down. And that to me is the most beautiful thing that I can see in a person. When a person has real confidence, when a person has real authenticity, it's personal. They walk the way that they walk because they've been through things that taught them how to walk the wrong way. They don't settle for certain things. They don't go to certain jobs. They don't talk the way that they don't accept certain people or relationships in their life anymore because of what they've been through. It's not a cocky thing. It's not arrogance. It's confidence. And see, for the people who didn't have the real background of what confidence looks like, didn't have the luxury of experiencing it when they were a child, those types of people have to go through God to get a better understanding of what it is. They have to go through God to reclaim their heart, to reclaim their mind, to make a choice about what their swag looks like, what their talk looks like, what they want in a relationship, what they want in a man, in a woman. Those kinds of people get it out the mud, so their authenticity hits different. They're not so easily swayed here and there. You can't convince that person of this thing or the other thing. Not because of arrogance. It's not because of arrogance. It's because they walk different. Because those types of people didn't have the playbook on how to walk in the first place. So yeah, I think that you should go through the experience of settling so that you never settle again. And only you can decide when enough is enough. For me personally, like I said, I've been through relationships. Majority of my relationships up until this point has been breadcrumbing. And this is no disrespect to the people on the other side of this, because to them, they're what I consider breadcrumbing, they consider more than enough because of one or two things. One, that is what I allowed. And two, for some of those people, they also have a lack of a foundational base of what real love looks like. Not to discredit or credit those people. This isn't about any of that. This is about having an understanding of what both perspectives look like. For some of those people, and this is what you have to understand, for some of those people who do breadcrumb you or they give you settlements, for some of them, that's all that they can give, and that's more than enough on their end. And that's okay. You got to wish those people well, and you got to move on. But you can only do that when you stay in the situation long enough to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is a settlement. And how will you know that? Because you've been through settlements before. So yes. And those moments, they are cringy. When you look back on those situations in retrospect, it's cringy as hell. You start looking at yourself like, ugh, that's what I allowed? That's who I was with? That's what it's, you know, you look back on it and you look at yourself like, wow. You look at the other people like, dang, is that who you know what I mean? And romantic and platonic, and career, opportunities, what you did, what you didn't do, all of those things are important. You look at it different. And your swag hits different when you take all of the lessons that you went through when you went through that. So yes, settle until you get a good understanding of what a settlement looks like, so that you recognize it when it comes to you again. You can only do that from experience. And for the people who get it, you get it. For the people who don't, you don't, and that's okay. I can only speak from experience, and I can only speak for the people who know and have a similar background. You know what I'm talking about. When you had to develop your confidence from ground zero. The types of people who didn't even know who they were and was just searching for a sense of love and companionship in all of the wrong places. You know what that feels like. It's harder for you to let go of those people who breadcrumb you because of your foundational background. You think that that is enough because that's all you've seen. But you will come to a place in your life where you realize what the pattern is, both in yourself and other people. And you step out of that with love and faith. And you give yourself the sufficient enough time and space to nurture yourself. Gather yourself again and try again. For people like us, it's mostly trial and error. But you get everything through God. So it makes it stronger. It hits different. But I'm just speaking on my opinion of the matter. And I want to open up the floor to my audience. I want you to talk about your experience. And if I can find the video, I'll post it somewhere, but it's really irrelevant. I want you to talk about what you've gone through. I want to create a safe space for people to feel like they can say me too. And understand that on the other side of whatever it is that you're settling for, there's something better. But only you can say when enough is enough. Until then, I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys. Everything that I put out is an extension of experience and love. And I want the people who are drawn to my voice to feel like they have a safe place to say me too. So like, comment, subscribe. All the social medias will be in the bio. And let's have a conversation. I'll see you next time.